Dynamite download.
AEW 2020, John Silver.
Special event, as you can see, SPD.
For a splashing good time. January recruitment month for them.
I come along, I come along in the ring.
I mean, I would not want to hear anything. I would not want to. Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Yo, buckle up, baby. Second live show back, and it was another banger, man. Fighter Fest night one.
Wow.
It's so good to hear the crowd back. It is just makes so much more difference. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. You got yourself SPD, Crayfish over there, Team Dynamite Download. The Dukes of Dynamite are here with episode 43 Dynamite Download, and man, did it not disappoint. And AEW is really starting to get their stride right now.
Oh, dude,
Listen to these live crowds, and it showed tonight, and it was a banger of a card and banger of a night of wrestling for sure.
absolutely, man. It was one of those shows where throughout the show you're just like, man, this show is it's every segment, every segment is hitting.
Yeah.
Every single segment. SPD from the very beginning of the show, it kicked off with a bang, and it just felt like
The wild thing, baby.
Our saying here at Dynamite Download about how buckle up. It feels like AEW fans need to buckle up. You need, like, right now, folks. This is like fresh off the heels of the pandemic era. You can tell AEW said it. Stick with us through June. We will pay you back in July. And I feel like this July has been absolutely unbelievable. SPD, you mentioned it. Road Rager felt like it was sort of a mini pay-per-view kind of show. This show, I think, took that vibe from Road Rager to a whole nother level. I feel like Fighter Fest night one set the bar quite high. Night two is already shaping up from what we're seeing to be incredible.
Quality
But
card again.
there's so much to talk about in this show, SPD. So why not just dive right in? You have the show up there, the card.
Yeah.
Let's get into the beginning. You mentioned Wild Thing, John Moxley. That entrance.
Wait, hold on. It's
ahead.
the Wild Thing. John Moxley.
Man,
I was
you gotta
clamoring
give the
for it.
people what they want.
Clamoring for it, but they made us stretch it out. And then Roberts gave us the John Moxley at the end. So he understands the stretch it out.
Yep.
And like you said, AEW is cha-ching. They're paying it off for their fans, sticking it through. And clearly, All Out sold out like that.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
if those of you watching, Team Dynamite Download is going to be there in Chicago All Out weekend. So be prepared. Come hang out with us. We are going to do some awesome stuff all weekend long. We're going to get in town early Friday and then through the weekend. So anyways, John Moxley is back. Buzzcut John, new dad on there. And boy, that was a nice way to kick things off, man.
Yeah.
It was a pleasing way to kick things off.
Well,
Sure.
I'm glad to hear you say it, and I want to hear it fresh from the horse's mouth. As the man who just cannot seem to get behind the Good Brothers, you enjoyed this match, did you not?
So the reason, yes, I cannot get behind the Good Brothers, but like I said last week, Carl Anderson is the workhorse of them, and he can put on a good match, as he did tonight.
Tonight was I felt like, all his kicks, bro. That was one of the things I was really impressed with. His offense. We say it a lot. Oh, man, that match was crisp. Or, man, those moves were really hitting. Dude, Carl Anderson was on point tonight, man. There was no sloppiness whatsoever in that man's game. He must have caught a skis before or what have you before the match. But my man was on his A game. And I was thoroughly impressed by what we saw out of Carl Anderson tonight. The machine gun came locked and loaded tonight. And he was ready. I mean, again, I want to emphasize this. You're talking John Moxley, a guy who is universally regarded as one of the best on the planet. PWI had him ranked as the number 1 wrestler on the planet just last year. And when you look at the bar that Moxley has set and sort of that aura that he has been able to establish as really one of the most dominant forces in AEW, he brought that swagger tonight, man. But Carl Anderson, the machine gun, he went toe-to-toe with Mox tonight, man. I felt like that tonight this matchup was set the tone. If we're going to see more of John Moxley defending the IWGP title on AEW television, I am all for it. I think bring in that fan base, bring in those eyes to the product. And if this sets the stage for what we're going to see coming out of the next showdown, where Moxley is going to go toe-to-toe with your guy, the Murder Hawk Monster, and I loved
right on cue.
I love both of these segments, both of these interviews, man. You got to hear from Lance and Jake, and then later on the night, you hear Moxley give a little accepting of
rebuttal.
Lance's. Yeah, he gave a little accepting rebuttal. But for those of you who are just catching the show with us tonight, you heard it here first. SPD is he's going to be geeking out. He gets to see Lance Archer in a Texas death match against John Moxley.
Oh my gosh. And obviously we're Murder Hawk maniacs here at Team Dynamite Download. We love what Lance is doing. But the thing is, like, he can't afford another loss at this point, man.
Who's to say he's going to lose, man? I mean, saying that
Moxley is one of the hottest things going, but it would be great to have maybe someone cost him the title or something and put some more relevance on Lance that he deserves.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the things when I talked about this on Friday Night Fights and Flights with Bonds, I felt like, we talked about the one chapter closing, another one opening, and it felt like the Lance Archer, unfortunately, it felt like the chapter was closing on sort of his title opportunities in AEW.
Right.
For this to come out and to draw on his history in Japan, man, that's the thing. I think that it's really important to remember, Lance, when he was in North America before he went to Japan, he was a very different person. Just not the same kind, not the Murder Hawk that
Right.
He really gained a lot of confidence and edge in Japan. So I feel like, going toe-to-toe with Moxley for this title, I think is going to really, further establish the Murder Hawk. And I know there's a lot of people out there like USPD who are, Murder Hawk monster maniacs, who are worried. Hey, is he going to lose again?
I know.
I got into a little conversation about it, and I want to throw it at you, man. I feel like I'm with you. If he loses again this one, it hurts him, right? And there's no doubt about it. But there's also that I feel like Lance is that guy, and this is what I was saying earlier tonight when I saw this promo. My initial reaction to Lance was just Lance is that ultimate what if in AEW. What if they pulled the trigger on him? What if they let him just kind of do what he does best, right? And that's some of the things that I think is important to emphasize. This man was killing it just earlier this year.
Yeah. Top performer for me 3 to 4 weeks in a row.
What are your thoughts, man? I mean, coming out of this, do you feel like Moxley can't drop the belt, or do you really see Archer establishing himself and potentially taking the belt off of Moxley?
I mean, if you would have asked me this a few weeks ago before Mox took the pin of the Young Bucks at the pay-per-view, which was an outstanding, obviously, match, I would have said Mox is close to one of the untouchable stars in AEW. That being said, it's kind of loosened it a little bit, but it's hard. I mean, they're setting the stage. They're saying the longest reigning, and they kept throwing in Archer. And I got to give props where props is due. Excalibur consistently,
he's so good, man,
educates us on international wrestling history. He consistently, for those of us who don't watch, and I'll have to admit, I don't watch New Japan Pro Wrestling. I don't know much overseas. And so I'm not ashamed to admit that. And so for Excalibur to lay down the groundwork for the average AEW fan, props to him.
Yeah.
He is a vital part of the announcement, and he's very knowledgeable and very smart guy. But I don't know I really have a hard time seeing Mox lose.
Fair enough. I get it.
Period.
I get it. I get it. Moxley is the man. That dude. And tonight was another reminder, man. That guy is just pure energy. There's that you feel a John Moxley entrance. I think that Mox and Machine Gun were going toe to toe tonight, and they were throwing blows. But I cannot wait to see what he and Archer are going to do together.
Yeah.
For those of you who follow Moxley, those of you who are out there who are big fans of this lunatic, there's something about Moxley that like kind of screw loose up top, that he enjoys those matches where, people push him physically, where people go to, people hit him hard. He likes those he feeds off of those types of matches. It almost brings out a different side of Moxley. And I think that Lance Archer's definitely going to push Moxley in that regard, especially you talking about a Texas death match.
Mm-hmm.
Moxley pointed it out in his promo, you're Texas bred, you're Texas born, Texas bred, and next week you're going to be Texas dead. Really, for Lance Archer getting a shot in Texas for a belt that he has history with. I mean, SPD, I don't want to get your hopes up as a Murder Hawk maniac, but I think that there could be something here, man. I think that there could be something with the Murder Hawk. Let's pull the trigger on him. Let's give this man a title run. Let him have that opportunity. Moxley,
Sure.
Moxley is certainly a hot act, and there's no arguing. He's as good as it gets in the world. But I think that the title, me personally, I think that it would make a lot of sense to make that switch. I don't think that Moxley needs the belt, and I think that Lance, there's so many pieces of this that make sense for Lance, especially fresh off the heels of that Miro loss. This would really reestablish the Murder Hawk monster in a lot of fans' eyes, and I think that's something that's important that AEW needs to do. I think that Lance is going to be important for this company as they transition into getting the new era of big men established.
And he could take that, we got to keep moving, but if he could take this title and do more stuff on the Rampage, which you saw that awesome, it's less than a month away. So here, I'll make the bold SPD prediction that if this is the main event, as it should be, we see the homegrown Murder Hawk monster walk out strong. And it would be a win-win across the board. And it'd be another title change. You did. Another title change, just like we saw one tonight. And we saw our two guys that we are extremely high on, absolute Ricky Starks, and, of course, the Machine, who bet up Brian Cage. And to our surprise, well, not really a surprise, but the crowd was so hot for Starks.
I think that's a surprise. Yeah, man. I think
the guy just he just like drenched in charisma, drenched in star power. And Cage, I thought he would get a bigger pop as kind of the babyface tendency looking for this. His pyro and his intro was great, Cage. Obviously that kind of person we've talked about time and time again, how amazing a babyface Roman would be with that. But we saw the crowd, like they're pulling a DMD, like they're rooting for the bad guy. They're pulling a crayfish, man. I mean,
hey, man,
he wins the FTW,
people
and the
have
crowd
that
was
inner
counting
heel in them, bud.
1, 2, 3, and they just erupted for Ricky Starks to win that FTW title in a cheating fashion that you absolutely loved.
Oh, I was eating up every minute of it, and
you were.
I'm loving that Team Babyface is so desperate that you guys got to take take people from my squad to make your stars. It's just a testimony to, like, when you're doing it right, it doesn't matter. Like, you could tell me I'm an idiot, you could tell me I'm a piece of trash, you could say my whole family is worthless. If you deliver it with the right swagger, if you deliver it with the right confidence and just that edge, you're gonna get over. The crowd's gonna fall in love with you. It doesn't matter what you say; it matters about how you say it. And I think that Ricky Starks, this dude just oozes charisma. He oozes that star power, as you talked about. It's really interesting to see how this whole thing plays out. I cannot wait till Friday Night Fights and Flights when we get to sit down with Bonds and talk to him a little bit more and just free flow and talk a little bit just about FTW title changing hands and what this means for Team Taz, but focusing in on the meat of this, SPD, I think that you're absolutely right. We see that the battle lines are drawn now in Team Taz. They've quickly, I think, established a hot feud moving forward. Brian Cage is going to be, the Machine is going to be laser focused.
No, he's going to tear through Team Taz.
And when you think about the Machine, this is a guy who's capable of anything. And although Ricky Starks may have got the last laugh tonight, I do feel like, Brian Cage is the type of guy without all the distractions, without all the having to follow all the drama and all the noise of Team Taz, and you can just focus in on what this guy does well.
Yep.
Super athlete, really easy to get behind in front of. Just putting him in front of live crowds, what this man can do is going to naturally get a lot of. I mean, imagine if you're a little kid. This is like the ultimate warrior to another level. I mean, this guy has the look, but then he can also deliver in the ring. It's just what a blend of skills Brian Cage possesses. So I think that the more, obviously tonight, the crowd was hot for a title change and hot for, understandably so, Ricky Starks, a healthy Ricky Starks coming back, in-ring return, which was nice to see. But I think long-term, SPD fans are going to be firmly behind a Brian Cage face push. I think that, with this extra motivation, getting screwed over like he did, in really true epic heel fashion, I was and as Team Heel, we were eating it up. I loved the betrayal that Team Taz had on Brian Cage tonight. Executed really well, just from start to finish. I have a feeling that this one's going to lead to higher star potential for both guys. Ricky Starks is going to only become that much more over now that he has this belt that he can brag about.
I can't wait.
He's going to talk a lot of trash. And Brian Cage is going to, now that he's kind of got this he's able to have the spotlight on himself, it's going to really push him to another level. I think this is going to be one of those moments where it's a win-win.
We've predicted and wanted, Starks holding a TNT style belt where he could just be this like trash talking guy. And now he's got a belt, and hopefully put some meaning on it for the FTW title as well. And we can't 100%. Wait for that. Man, this was you had to have some kind of rebuttal. And
is that a picture of me last week?
That was a picture of you last week on Dynamite Download. Crayfish Black, coined by Mind Runner there for sure. So Crayfish Black was stuck in a blackout, literally in his car. But the show goes on, absolutely. But Cody comes out pissed off in his white suit. So Cody Rhodes white suit and Malachi black suit. So it's a black and white right here.
Very visual, very visual.
Great
feud.
Crowd was popping, and he said it. Even the fans were cheering for him, for Black. They weren't cheering for Cody. And this is going to be a great segue feud out of the factory, which we can talk about a whole nother time, which we will. But I can't wait for Black to go over and just his ascent and to see him in the ring. Put him against, Captain America, Super Cody, obviously the face of AEW. And then you have a guy that's going to be a star immediately for sure. So I liked Cody's promo aspect to this. I liked the fire. He got a commentator for us at home and then grabbed the mic. And then Black's promo too. His vignette was phenomenal. And so this was a home run, unexpected segment that was great.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear you say it too. Because I know that hearing that character work from Aleister Black, it gives you a whole new opportunity to fall in love with this character, because you don't have that history that some people have with this character, right? You don't know, so for you, this is really an awesome thing. And I felt like, I was really close to turning on the crowd tonight. They were amazing throughout the show, but they're at moments during Aleister Black's promo was almost like, is Aleister Black too smart for you guys? Is he challenging you guys too much to pay attention? Come on, guys, come on. But to their credit, I mean, and to Malachi Black's credit, he delivered a very intelligent, spooky, eerie, kind of a killer promo where he talking about putting a horse out to pasture. And that all catapulted off of Cody's really passionate speech to begin this whole segment. I think that Cody, it's easy to brush over Cody's work in this one. Cody, you mentioned the white suit versus Malachi Black, that visual aesthetic. Cody likes to lean into that aesthetic a lot, the visuals a lot. And, when you talk about that feud with Anthony Ogogo, he all of a sudden became Captain America. Cody really likes that, to add those different layers and depth to his stories. There's no reason not to do it. So I thought that that's a really cool aesthetic, and I enjoyed that.
Suit games are always on point, though.
Suit games always on point. But Cody came out angry and fired up, and rightfully so. When you think about, when you step away from, oh wow, Malachi Black is awesome, and this is coming from the heel, right? When you step away from that and you think about, man, he literally kicked this 63-year-old man in the face. Like that's pretty awful thing to do. So it just Cody has the I think the motivation to want to go after him. And his promo, he was spitting truth, bro. It was like, if you want to come after me, that's one thing, right? Again, another debut at the expense of Cody, right? Somebody wanted to come in out and make their name and make their mark off of him. He's used to that. So I felt like both sides of this promo segment tonight came at each other. I don't think that Cody, by any stretch of the imagination, even though we're all excited for what Malachi Black has to say, and boy, did he deliver! With the lights going out, and with a really intelligent story about putting Cody down. I felt like it's important to note Cody, who we've said time and again is one of the most consistent promo guys in in pro wrestling. He held his own tonight, and yes, Malachi Black gets a lot of the shine. But I thought that, it takes two to tango. As we saw later on in the DMD Nyla Rose segment, this is one of those instances where both sides carried their weight with the promo game, and I loved it. I was eating it up. I can't wait to see where this feud goes, man. And this is one of those feuds that there's so much potential, both in the ring and on the mic. I think a lot of fans are going to get behind it. And to your credit, as you pointed out, before we go on to the next segment, it was typical AEW fashion. They acknowledged the fan reaction to Cody, and later on in the night, QT Marshall talked about getting buried by Super Cody, the
golden shovel. I think that it's really great to see that trend in AEW where they recognize what is being said on social media, what is being said, the reaction from their fan base, and they interweave that into the character motivations, their reactions, the storylines. This was a great example of that. Cody being the heel in some ways for some fans, right? Yeah, for sure. My favorite segment of the night, by far, to me, the crowd was the loudest. Was in at this segment, the loudest for Hangman Page, the loudest chants, cowboy shit. The way I gathered it, being there live would be different.
The crowd was
clearly they are behind Adam Page, and this is a consistent trend. It's only, I think the steam is only getting more and more and more behind Adam Page, man. And this was a great fired up Hangman. Talk about fired up. And then, of course, Don interrupted, which was actually pure gold. And this whole thing that came out of it, that we got essentially a 5-on-5, you win, you get title shots, you lose, you don't get any title shots. And now Hangman threw in the tag title one. As soon as he threw that in too, because he's sticking up for his buddies,
his friends.
I was like, yes, adding more stipulation to that.
I love it.
And for Matt to get in his face too. I don't know how fast they grow those beards back, man. That was quick for them. But this was my top segment of the night, easily.
Love to hear it.
A lot of great stuff coming on the heel side, saying that you're not the guy, you're just going to be another great wrestling tragedy and things like that. So they're really digging deep at Hangman, and the Dark Order coming out, and now the Dark Order to kind of get some shine and potentially a title shot. I think this is just, I was like beaming for this, because they came out last week, but just like the brotherhood bond that they got behind Adam Page and him showing the respect to them, and finally like a group that will contend against the Elite. So it almost seems like my dream team dethroning the Elite is over, because I think that whole Eddie Kingston Penta thing is all over. I think that's done. Sadly, that had a good run, but it was kind of starting to go nowhere.
We're starting to see it pivot too, with the Death Triangle now getting involved with Andrade.
We'll see what goes with that.
We'll talk about that. I can't wait. I wore this show specifically. I have like 40 of these 40 AEW shirts in my closet right now. My wife has to be like going nuts, but I felt like this was an AEW show. I just wanted to represent the company.
I was thinking that too. So proud of it. A proud night. That's why I did it.
A night to be proud of this company. I thought that this was an incredible show from top to bottom. And it's awesome to hear you talk about this feud, man, because I know anybody who watches and listens week in, week out knows SPD is all in on the Pinnacle versus Inner Circle feud. But this is an example, man. There are so many other feuds going on in AEW. I talked about it with the main event tonight. We'll get into it later on in the show.
Right.
But there are so many other feuds in this company right now that are just clicking, that are just hitting hard. Stories that have us invested.
For sure.
We just finished talking about Cody versus Malachi Black. That's one that we know is going to be one that's going to get us chomping at the bit. But dude, this is one. We all kind of knew, okay, how is the story of Hangman versus Adam versus Kenny Omega going to happen, right? How is that going to play out? But what happened tonight was better than I think any of us could have hoped for. I thought the way that whole thing played out, the very real, pointed commentary from Matt Jackson and the rest of the Elite coming at Hangman Page, they pulled no punches.
Did they ever? Yeah.
But that's another great part of this story. Again, is the Elite, all the top guys in the whole world, the guys with the belts, the guys who have run the business and all this stuff, against the lowly Dark Order, this group that was formed from a bunch of rejects that came together, that were tired of losing and kind of rallied around each other, and through their bond and through their friendship have become the home team of AEW. It's a really great parallel of where you get to see this dichotomy, right? You get to see the Elite, these guys who have traveled all over the world and who are universally recognized as the best, versus these guys who are really the scrappy underdogs. It's the perfect summer movie where you see the scrappy underdog baseball team has to win the World Series, that type of, and that's how this feels. Is now with all these extra stipulations added, that match, that 5-on-5 elimination match that was announced, it's going to be absolutely epic. You get to see Hangman Adam Page and the Dark Order go against Kenny Omega and the Elite with a title shot on the line for the world title and the tag titles. I mean, that is going to just be absolutely epic, man. Great stuff. I think there's a lot of people out there who are wondering, how long do you stretch out this Hangman versus Kenny Omega?
All out, baby.
I feel like this was a great way that AEW did that. Right now, you have another you have another stop along the journey before you get to that Kenny Omega versus Hangman Adam Page one-on-one world title match. Now this becomes that stop, and then you get the one-on-one build. Once Hangman wins this match, once they win this 5-on-5, then you get to build up to that match at All Out. I love it. I love where they're going with this, man.
And they could even throw in, like you're saying in the chat, throw in something to do with BTE. So I know Young Bucks kicked off Dark Order and BTE, so maybe they can win back the, being in control of BTE, because Dark Order is always gold on that. Obviously, my favorite segment always. Or, if down the line we actually do see Dark Order get gold, the Young Bucks not only lose BTE, they lose their belts, and
that's
then
a
they're
great
just the biggest
point.
belts,
That's a great point.
Tie in everything.
For those of you who are following in BTE, you're right, SBD. That's a great point. They've been really, the Bucks have really been emphasizing, man, isn't it so much better without Dark Order? That's a really smart point that you made, and another feather in the cap for AEW for allowing their universe to all bleed together, for allowing all their content to intertwine. That's a good call.
Absolutely. That would be a lot of fun if they kept stretching this out. And then we see the ultimate payoff, like we talked about, Hangman getting gold at All Out, and riding off into the sunset, ending the pay-per-view on a horse.
I love that.
So
that's a great idea.
Or he rides to the ring in a horse, and then he leaves to the ring in a horse. They bring one out, and he rides out holding gold over his head.
Love it.
That would be great.
Great
so
idea.
This was obviously a feud many, many years in the making. The first singles match Christian Cage has won against Matt Hardy. So that's just a prime example of AEW's booking, AEW's creative freedom. This was solid veterans putting on a great wrestling match that told a great story. Both guys had some awesome high spots, some brutal stuff off the top, the brutal DDT on the steps. This was one that I felt was main event worthy feud, given the history and the names, the marquee names that these two carry. But for what it was worth, I think they did a great job telling the story. But I do think it did deserve a main event payoff. That's my only gripe on it. But this doesn't seem over. Obviously, what we saw at the end of the match, and
That's
so
what I was going to say. Yeah,
it would be great to see Luchasaurus back in the ring, who's someone I'm very high on. So we can start to see HFO versus Christian Cage, plus obviously Jurassic Express. And so that will still make for a lot of great matches moving forward.
I'm all for that. I mean, Matt Hardy with Private Party going against Christian and Jurassic Express. That would be an awesome little trios match. I mean, that would be great. I agree with you. The way this match ended certainly feels like this is not the end, SPD. So for those main event dreams that you have, don't worry.
Right.
I think that there's still potential that's down the road. And certainly just what we talked about, that 6-man tag match, that's a main event right there. I mean, that could be a main event of a Dynamite, no doubt. I do find it also interesting that like the commentary team talked a little bit about Jungle Boy and Christian at the end of the match and sort of how their interactions seemed a little off. There have definitely been seeds planted on it. You know, is this relationship wholly what we see on the surface right now between Jungle Boy and Christian? I'm interested to see that.
Much of that.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that, and you know, we'll see if that ends up that maybe that's just me as a heel wishful thinking that maybe Christian turns on him at some point. But at this point right now, I felt like Christian tonight really, you know, we've seen him. He's been undefeated in AEW, and he's really shown. I mean, whether he was in the Powerhouse Hobbs match, or you know, we can go on and on about some of the matches that stood out along the way that Christian has had. But this is one of those matches where I felt like Christian really pulled out some of the things up, some of the tricks up his sleeve. I mean, the dive to the outside,
early on,
that frog splash, the height that he got on that frog splash was absolutely. I mean, that was vintage Christian. That was old school. Really enjoyed that. And you know, as team heel, my favorite moment of this whole match was, you know, Matt Hardy, a new dad, kicking Christian in the nuts. I absolutely love that. I thought that was absolutely hilarious.
Of course,
very fitting. But I think that there's a lot of meat left on the bone for this one, SPD. This served its purpose. I think there were some people out there who were wondering, you know, did this match need to happen on such a stacked card? But I think that, you know, given what happened and how this ended, this feud is not over, and I think it's going to only get better from here.
Yes, I agree. And speaking of meat on the bones, I mean, you're talking about menu items. You know, the DMD is the top of the food chain. She's not even on the menu. It's
not
a
even on the
menu,
bro.
You got the secret sauce and the secret menu. Great to see the DMD in the ring, and was very curious of how the crowd would react. And obviously chanting along, great pop from her. And absolute, like you said, lethal promo. And I loved what she said.
That stare, dude.
I know.
I mean, this is one of those promos, man. Like, she just stared into the camera.
Pure fire. She's
just
focused. And we know it's always been high on your radar at all times. And this was just the nail in Nyla's coffin. And I almost, when she was saying how Nyla's at the top, I almost thought she was going to use the crayfish coin, calling her the gatekeeper. I was like, waiting for it. I'm like, waiting for it. Is she listening to Dynamite Download? Well, how you call Nyla Rose the gatekeeper of the women's division. And she acknowledged that she's at the top of the women's division. And so this being the first feud, obviously has a loss against her. So this was, I can't say good enough. The promo, the live in-ring promos tonight were just absolute home runs, one after another.
Those are not easy. Those are not easy to do. You know, I was particularly impressed. Just like, dude, not like the focus on Britt. It felt like this was one of those promos where she was like, "All right, I'm sending a message." We saw some of the backlash, and we felt it even here at Dynamite Download about the after that promo, the Saudi promo. And I felt like Britt really just was like, looked straight into the camera. And she eviscerated Nyla. Yeah. I mean, this was a promo that was, there was no, like, this was one of those promos where you got to see why she has been somebody who I've been saying over and over and over again is special on the mic. There's very few people who can do what she just did. And I don't want to speak in hyperbole, right? And
Right.
I know I'm a Britt Baker, I'm a DMD mark, I'm a fanboy for the DMD, right? But this was one of those promos. You got to go on social, you got to find that promo if you missed it. Britt just absolutely ripped Nyla's heart out, and left it there. It was that kind of promo, man. And the truth of the matter is, they gave Nyla and Vicky a rebuttal, and no one heard a thing. And that's not me trying to be mean to Nyla and Vicky. I'm not trying to rub salt in the wound.
Vicky's great.
Vicky's great, and Nyla, as I've said it time and again. Britt even talked about it at length. This was a great example of Britt acknowledging the strengths of her opponent. She talked about Nyla has beat me more than once. Nyla is, as Crayfish talks about, Britt said it, as Crayfish talks, she's the gatekeeper. She is the gatekeeper. So she acknowledged that. But
I don't know what that was.
Bro.
That was the gates opening.
Yeah, that was interesting. But Britt literally just bro, I mean, that was scorched earth, almost where you feel bad because you just want this match to happen soon, right? Because you don't want Nyla to have these kind of promo battles because it's not going to go well for her. The DMD came out swinging tonight, and I think she landed a KO punch, bro. This was an absolute knockout promo by the DMD.
It's like watching, if you remember the movie Old School, when Will Ferrell, they're debating, and Will Ferrell says all this stuff, and he's like, "Oh, what happened? I blocked out." And then your rebuttal, and the guy's like, "I have no rebuttal. That was perfect." And so it's a tough one to do for rebuttal on that.
I know, and it was a babyface promo, but delivered with the kind of fire and intent that. Britt did it well. And this is another example here. Sammy Guevara is a guy who's a babyface who can come out and oftentimes has that sort of that swagger to him, that heel babyface. They walk that line. You just want to root for him, and that's what that's why DMD has gotten over so much. And Sammy, you talked about big pops. Sammy got a huge pop. This kid just walked out. You can tell he was feeling good. He knows that he's a rising star. What did you think about this one, man? This was kind of a surprise match, kind of last minute ad.
Of course, it was a surprise match last minute, but this was just a showcase to. It's one of those things, kind of when Jungle Boy lost to Kenny Omega. The next week, he got a rebuttal match with Jack Evans, and just to reignite the momentum with the crowd. And so this was another kind of placement of that to me. It wasn't when Sammy main evented, but you can tell that he's feeling the vibe. He's comfortable, getting more comfortable. On his vlog, he talked about not having a singles match for so many days, so many months. And it was a long time when he had a singles match. And so the MJF one was the first one. Now we're seeing another one of having a singles match. So I think it was great.
Shaking off some of the rust a little bit.
Definitely need to do that. Feeling himself. The crowd was great. It was well wrestled match for both guys. Yep. High flying. This Yuta guy that I honestly haven't watched anything of him. Held his own during the match, and it was obviously not the one that stole the show or one we're talking about, but it was one that would have been fun to watch live. Because you're rooting for the good guy to win, and the good guy won. And there wasn't a true it was a win-win for a crowd because it was entertaining throughout.
That's exactly right, man. This is a match where if you're live in the crowd and you get to see some of these guys going at each other, and some just how fluid this match felt. Yeah, and you get to see Sammy, right? You get to see Sammy out there, and
the Spanish God.
Get to see the Spanish guy come out there and really, control most of the match. Kind of walk out there with some swagger, reestablish himself. Obviously the match with MJF was absolutely a banger and stole the show. And one of the better main events that you'll see. But he came up short in that match. So as you said, this was a great opportunity to reestablish Sammy's momentum, get him going in the right direction. I think that this, the Inner Circle had a couple of those things tonight. Obviously, Jericho took a beating by the hands of MJF and Sammy, or of Sean Spears tonight. But you got to see, Santana Ortiz get a little bit of comeuppance against Tully with that line. I love it. They came after Tully tonight. So again, last week you get to see these ebbs and flows of the Inner Circle Pinnacle feud, where one week it feels like the Pinnacle has the advantage, the next week it's the Inner Circle. It's just it's an awesome back and forth feud, and it doesn't feel like 50-50 booking, which is a typical criticism that fans have of pro wrestling, where it's like, oh, one guy wins and the other guy has to win. It doesn't feel like that. It feels very natural, where you have two elite factions that are just going at each other. And sometimes in a fight, your opponent's going to catch you clean on the jaw. It's going to happen. But you got to get back up and come at them. And I feel like this Inner Circle Pinnacle feud is every single week. It feels like that. MJF got the upper hand on Sammy this week. Sammy came back, got the win, gets himself moving in the right direction, not allowing MJF to kind of win the war, right? Not beating Sammy's psyche, kind of getting him rattled. That didn't happen. You could tell that Sammy Guevara is not rattled, which is exactly what you needed to see after that matchup.
Absolutely. And speaking of impressive people in the ring, I'm very high on, and I think we all are starting to see the stars align. Penelope Ford, is quietly such a consistent performer and well performer. And the announce team once again threw in stats that I had no idea, that she's 16-1 in her last 17 matches. And I don't know anybody in the women's division that has a better record than that, other than when Sheeta
20,
in her last 17 matches.
20-3 in her last 23 matches, 16-1 in her last 17.
That tells me she should be ranked 1 or 2, period, with that.
There's no doubt. I mean, especially when we're looking at a division that we're questioning who are going to be the challengers that are going to emerge, who are some people who we're going to get behind, and not just for the women's championship, right? I think it's really important. I talked about this with Bonds on Friday night, but it's really important, SPD, that they start to add characters that have legitimacy, not just as world champ, a challenge to Britt Baker, but to as people that you believe you want to get invested in, who are actually, you want to see their match, you want to see you need to start to establish, hey, I want to see a Sheeta match. Hey, I want to see a Ty Conti match. Now Penelope Ford, I feel like they had that, and they still kind of do. I feel like this match was actually surprisingly, I mean, again, the women's match, picture in picture, really hurt this match for the majority of it. But I feel like Penelope Ford was hitting a little bit tonight. Like, I feel like the crowd, like she looked like $1 million. She came
very confident in the ring,
confident. And knowing that she had the size advantage against Yuka here, you talked about it when she went against Julia Hart, SPD, and I know that maybe people didn't catch on to this like you did, but I saw it then, and after you mentioned it, I agree with you. Penelope Ford when she's given those opportunities to sort of control a match, right? Sort of kind of be the general of where that match is going to go. I think she's showing some that her roots on the indies have really paid off. Right. This match against Yuka, again, just it felt like Penelope was the one that was kind of leading the pace, leading the way this match was going. And Yuka ended up coming out looking great. Yuka's got a great personality. She's probably honestly, I enjoy her work quite a bit from the Joshi style. And that's not always my cup of tea. I know that a lot of people love that Maki Ito and the kind of the silliness but I actually kind of like Yuka's kind of dance, like her lighthearted approach to it. I think she's entertaining. I thought this match was better than a lot of people were expecting. I thought that this one was quite a bit of fun to watch. What we got to see anyway. I
did like some of Yuka's high spots, that spinning move at the end. Very fun in the ring too. That her style is a lot of fun, and I think it fits AEW really well.
They need to capitalize on that, right?
They do. They need to capitalize it, and you have a workhorse that we're seeing with Penelope. Take the loss was kind of surprising, unless you do something with Yuka. It'd be hard to just keep her off TV again for months or weeks at a time. Yes, you're establishing her as a top tier performer, but you're you're letting your bread and butter, your workhorse, your backbone of a division starting to be.
I agree.
Take a loss like that.
That's a great point.
I think the loss, a loss to Yuka or a win for Penelope would have done way more for her than a win for Yuka in this scenario. So
totally agree. I totally
if
agree. If
Yuka lost tonight, I wouldn't have mattered.
No, she could.
Penelope Ford losing, I think it hurts.
The only way this makes sense is if AEW plans on utilizing Yuka in a larger capacity, a larger role. Otherwise, I'm sorry, like I don't agree with the decision of bringing her back on television, even though she's a familiar face. I do not agree with the decision of doing what they did, where Penelope has built this momentum, she's built this winning record, she's starting to develop a following, and then you have somebody come in and just instantly nuke her, beat her. What does that say about everything that Penelope's done to this point? It just kind of, I don't like that. And I feel like it undercuts the momentum that Penelope Ford was building. Right. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me from a company perspective. Again, unless they recognize, okay, Yuka is a star that we want to tap into. Right. We see a potential there, and we want to utilize her more. If they do that, great. I'm all for it. Having her come in and get a victory against Penelope Ford, a believable name, somebody who's built up their reputation, great. But if you squander this and Yuka goes away and not on television for another couple months, then this means nothing to her career. And quite honestly, it like you said, it hurts Penelope Ford. It doesn't this decision doesn't make a lot of sense. So we're going to have to pay close attention what their plans are. I mean, I would be intrigued to see more of that the Japanese influence come back in. We saw them toy with that earlier on this year. I'd be intrigued to see if they, if they bring a Maki Ito back, if they bring, Yuka in, if they Riho, Riho is somebody who I love in the ring. I think Riho, our first women's champion,
really
great
great
addition. Shida, I mean, are they going to bring that in and are they going to embrace that, or is that you can't just dip your toes in it, right? You gotta decide, especially when you make decisions like this that are at the sacrifice and at the detriment of your talent that we get to see week in, week out. You got to really think about where you're going with those decisions.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about one that we've kind of the conductor himself, Crayfish, the main event, the conductor of the Derby Express train. Ethan Page took another loss to Darby Allin in the first ever coffin match here at Fyter Fest Night 1. I liked Page's gear. I thought that his gear was great, and we finally got Darby's typical entrance riding down on the skateboard. So it's nice to get back to the AEW normal that we were used to once they launched. And crowd was hot for definitely Darby Allin, but once again, the biggest heel of the night is the picture-in-picture, and it's one of those things. And it's usually Crayfish, but I think the heel of the night goes to picture-in-picture.
I'm on team. I'm on picture-in-picture is welcome on Team Heel.
It is not welcome on Babyface.
I'll even cut a promo for Team Heel for picture-in-picture. I'll say this. There were multiple moments during this show where I said, "Man, I would pay money for this product." Like it was a pay-per-view, like it was a standalone show. Like
yeah, I agree.
Like Impact, their pay-per-views are priced at a point where it's like, okay, it's $20, or and if this show was priced at $20 and I paid $20 to watch this show, I would have been fine with that. I would have paid $20 for this show. So knowing that, I kind of try to pinch myself and say, okay, like don't fall into that trap of criticizing picture-in-picture because you're getting this for free.
True.
And it's like, man, this show is, this show from start to finish, every single match and every single segment hit. We didn't even talk really about we didn't really talk about some of the great stuff that we saw tonight. We're going to get into that on Friday, right? When it's a little looser setup, we don't have to get up for work in the next day, all that good stuff, right? But well, I don't know about you, buddy, but for me, I don't have to. So I'll say, but so I agree that picture-in-picture is a heel, but I understand its place. That said, the opener and the main event, guys. This you can't do that in the middle of the main event. Like, and literally, it felt like we lost a
crucial part of the match. I mean,
third
you saw
of the match.
Sting stuff. You saw the ring apart. You saw Darby's ascent and
everything that spilled out into the crowd. All that stuff that spilled out into the crowd. I mean, you missed so much of that important stuff. And we put a poll out there. You're not alone. You know, Twitterverse is out there, and they recognize. I mean, dude. It is so hard to focus in on the match when it's picture in picture. It's so difficult. I literally now I've tried to train my brain where I will put it on mute when it's in picture because it allows me it helps not get the ADHD thing going and all that. You know, you're not getting overstimulated by all that noise. You can at least try to focus in on the match. Right. But it's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to do when you have like all that other, like you have the bigger picture and all that extra noise distracting. And this was a match that, man, it felt special. This was a match that the crowd was
first ever match, a first ever.
Dude, the crowd was so freaking hot for Darby Allin, baby. They were so hot for him tonight. There were a lot of people.
Hold on, honk it.
Choo choo.
All right, conductor.
Can't be too loud. But this is, you know, to me, like if I was there at the arena, I would be screaming choo choo. I'd be dude, I would have a train. Like, people would be like
one of the train whistle horns.
We'd be strutting down the stairs and there'd be people latched like a human train.
Conga line.
The conga line, the Derby Express would be making its way through the arena after this one. This one was an absolute. Again,
I want to see that at all out.
I can't describe to you. I'll make it happen. I'll make that happen. I can't explain to you how awesome it is to see such a character who has, through his own like just relentless attitude, his like just that never say die attitude, has established himself as one of the most compelling baby faces of this generation. You know, he's not the biggest guy, he's not the strongest guy, he's not the fastest guy, bro.
And one who takes the most abuse.
He can't.
Good grief.
I mean, the guy is willing to put himself through anything to win, and it's such an endearing trait to have. It's like it's that ultimate, you know, never say die attitude that so many of us can relate to. You know, getting up every day and going at it, even when it's hard. Keep pushing. Darby Allin connects on that level, and to me, this match. The storytelling throughout was fantastic. You know, it was great to see Scorpio Sky and Stinger get involved.
Of course,
I think
that was a cool surprise.
That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun seeing those two.
Giving the people what they want. Sting shows up for a live audience. Of course, people are gonna pop big time. And I mean, like the two high spots were just cringeworthy. These guys, I mean, Darby and some others, like. They're not going to be able to walk when they're like 45 years old. I mean, to take an Ego's Edge onto the steps.
Off the top.
Honestly, I don't even care if he would have done that coffin drop into the coffin. Like I would have been fine with him just celebrating. But he decides to do a coffin drop through. Clearly, if you look at this picture, that's solid wood right there on the edge. So that's two heavy hits on the back of his back.
You're right.
Man.
No, there's no doubt, bro. I mean, that Ego's Edge off the ropes onto the steel steps. Painful. There was no give. There was no give. That looked like that hurt. The coffin drop off the top rope. Through to the outside, through a coffin, onto Ethan Page. What an emphatic, bro! Sometimes that's the thing. He's trying to send a message to you, SPD. Darby's trying to say, "What do I got to do to make sure that you see what I'm doing here, man? This kid is willing to do whatever it takes for the fans. For the fans, it's a beautiful thing. This story was great. It seems like." Even though it was an emphatic win by Darby here,
right?
It still doesn't feel like it's over to me. It still doesn't feel like it's over. I don't know. I mean, how does Ethan Page come back?
Put the nail in the coffin.
I know Ethan Page. How does he come back from that? I don't know. It'll be intriguing. but I don't know, man. It feels like there's still more there. There's still something there. I don't want this story to end, I think is what it is. I think that, Ethan Page, the intensity that he's been able to bring, this dude is really, it's fun to watch a guy who can flip on the charisma and get that cheesy grin and kind of get you eaten out of the palm of his hand just by being funny and charismatic. And then with a flip of a switch, this dude's a killer. I mean, right. Ethan Page, we've seen it time and again, throwing Darby down the steps, breaking his arm. You just talked about it. Right. An Ego's edge off the top onto a steel steps. I mean, the stuff that he's shown that he's willing to do. When you have a guy who talks like he does, but then also has that that flip of a switch, he can be a killer. There's no reason to me, Ethan Page. There's no reason why they shouldn't go and recognize this dude has he's a champion in the scheme of AEW, in the landscape of AEW. Ethan Page needs to have some gold by this time next year. I think this dude he's connecting on every level. Why not strike while the iron's hot? Even though he came up short against Darby, I think that you need to refocus. I know it bums you out to hear it because Darby is not going anywhere anytime soon.
This could have been. I think this could have been not necessarily tonight on the coffin match. It makes sense for Darby to win with the coffin drop and the coffin match and all that, whatever. But I think this feud could have benefited from a trading. You win one, I win one, stuff like that. So this was just Darby burying them the whole time, and someone strong like Page like that. It's unfortunate, but I still think the star power is there and the rise of him is there for sure. And
it's hilarious.
Give it 2 honks for your top performer.
It's hilarious to me that you just said Darby Allin was burying somebody. Are you listening to yourself? Darby Allin is the king of getting destroyed and you always call him the crash test dummy. And now he wins and now he's burying people. I don't know what this guy can do to get you to like him.
People against my will.
Yeah. I don't know what my guy Darby, the Darby Express is not getting off. He's not getting derailed because of you. Choo choo.
And he was your top performer. We already know why, because you're the conductor. Unbiased.
I don't know what this guy has to do in order to win you over, SPD. Eventually, you're coming around. But
let me order that babyface shirt for you. Done. Sent. Babyface shirt heading your way.
Okay, so tell me why the ultimate heel of tonight's show, the guy who turned on his former friend and left him high and dry, is your top performer. Because, to me, I think Darby being in the main event, winning a coffin match, first ever AEW coffin match against All Ego Ethan Page, a guy who we both think is amazing. My top performer is a home run pick. Everybody's going to be in lockstep with me, other than you. Tell me why Ricky Starks is your top performer.
Well, if I didn't know your top performer, I potentially could have picked Darby. Darby has only been my top performer once in our Dynamite download history, but I'm a huge Ricky Starks fan. Obviously, he was one of my picks for Breakout Star of 2021, and now finally, I think this was a Breakout Star moment of his return. Obviously, this wasn't the main event that people are talking about, but I think this was probably the next match that will be buzzed about. And now we kind of have a resurgence of Team Taz after this. And so Ricky Starks, I mean, clearly giving the people what they want. The fans were behind it. And I think you have yourself an instant star for live events now. And so clearly that he was for that, not necessarily just the pure in-ring performance or anything, but just the overall total package performance he put on tonight and 100%. Result.
I get it completely. When you win a title, especially, obviously FTW title doesn't get defended very often, and Ricky came out, won that belt. Clearly, from a storyline perspective, he's going to be catapulted to a whole nother echelon of where his career is going. I agree with you. I think you said it best. He was your pick for Breakout Star of the year, and this felt like, all right, injuries be damned. Now he's back. He's ready to rock. And watch out, because absolute Ricky Starks is the Stark man that is here, and he's not going anywhere, brother. This guy is going to absolutely Absolutely. I think
Absolute crayfish.
he checks all the boxes, man. The dude can cut a mean promo. And now I think with Cage out of the way, Team Taz sort of feels now like it's like Ricky Starks is unquestionably that top guy, right? In that group. We all agree that Powerhouse Hobbs has a ton of upside. We really enjoy what this guy's doing, from an in-ring character perspective. Hobbs has it down pat. The guy is killing it. Watched him on Dark this week, and just it was fun to watch him bully people.
Right.
But I feel like from a all-around bona fide superstar perspective, Ricky Starks now doesn't have to share that spotlight with Brian Cage. Brian Cage, a former Impact champion, a guy who we know, has made it all over the world. Lucha Underground, this guy has done it all. Now with him out of the picture, Team Taz is solely focused in on making sure that Ricky Starks' agenda gets followed and gets processed, right? There's no dilemma anymore. It's all about supporting Starks. And I think that's going to go a long way in Ricky Starks' momentum going up in that direction, right? I mean, you're going to have Hook, you're going to have Hobbs, you're going to have Taz all focused in on protecting Ricky Starks, making him untouchable. That'll be a lot of fun to see how that all plays out.
Absolutely, man. I can't wait for it, and nice resurgence for it. Now, real quick, before we sign off for the sunset, and we'll dive deep into some of these segments on Friday night like we do.
It's important to watch.
We're going to start do Mox versus Archer, Jericho versus Spears, DMD versus Nyla, OC versus Blade. What are you looking forward to most? Just pick one, and I'll tell you mine.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a tough one. It's tough.
It's a tough one because I think that the Mox versus Archer death match will be that's really intriguing to me. But I'm ready for the DMD to put the Native Beast down, and this is going to be one of those few examples where you're not asking. This is one of the few examples where I'm going to be telling AEW, do not milk it, do not stretch it out.
That's rare. We usually like a long feud, but
let Britt, after going full scorched earth on Nyla tonight, let Britt slay the Native Beast. Let's enter a new chapter for the DMD and allow that to continue to thrive, because I think that's to me, from a story perspective, that's one where I'm most interested. I want to see what happens with the DMD going forward.
Sounds great, man. Moxley,
what about you?
Archer.
I knew it.
I mean, you have a card packed with some of my favorites. Obviously, Jericho on my Mount Rushmore, Moxley and Archer. So I just want – I won't get off the Archer Express. So I'm all for the push for him, and I just want to see him succeed and ascend to the top. So that will be that. But
I agree with you, man.
Yeah.
I hear you. And that could go a long way, man. I hope that what I talked to you about earlier tonight ends up happening, because I think that with the history there that Archer has with that title, there could be something really special. If they lean into it.
Never know.
Lean into it, folks. We'll see what happens, man. I can't wait to talk to you more on Friday night. There's so much stuff that we need to dive into with you fans.
Yes, a lot.
Friday night's that avenue where the chat was popping tonight. We're going to be chatting with you.
Thank you for joining us, everyone.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. Friday night, we're going to get in depth. We're going to chat with you guys, and it's going to be a blast. Make sure you're checking us out on Instagram, on Twitter. You're going to be interacting with you guys. Please subscribe, share that stuff on YouTube. We're making a big push to All Out. Let's get over that hump.
Close to our 1 year anniversary. We're going to hit that 1,000 subscribers at our 1 year anniversary while we're in All Out. But, I mean, we can't thank you guys enough for all the support.
Some bottles.
A little bit of the bubbly.
Yeah,
we'll pop a little bit of the bubbly for that. But, man, have a good night, everyone. Stay safe and enjoy your week. And we'll see you all on Friday.